Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our November 2018 monthly webinar. Thank you all for joining us. In the spirit of Thanksgiving, this month we are showing our appreciation to all our members and webinar attendees by giving you what you asked to see more of in our series. That is, CTN instructors demonstrating best practices from their own classes. Today, we're delighted to present Palo Alto College's Diane Lerma, who will be speaking to us today about strategies for student success from her experience teaching EDUC 1300, as well as from her own professional development experience. And now it is my great pleasure to introduce our speaker for today, Diane Lerma. Born and raised in San Antonio, Texas, Diane Lerma graduated from Our Lady of the Lake University with a bachelor's degree in social work. She had previously earned an Associate of Arts degree from San Antonio College. After Our Lady of the Lake, Diane enrolled in graduate studies at the University of Texas at San Antonio and graduated with a Master of Arts in Education degree. Her teaching philosophy centers on building community in the classroom, practicing validation theory, and believing higher education should be accessible to all. Diane Lerma is an assistant professor in the Department of Behavioral Sciences at Palo Alto College, a community institution serving a large Mexican-American constituency where she instills positive learning experiences for first-generation students. She has served as faculty advisor for the Palomino Book Club, Baptist Student Ministry, and Ascender Club student organizations. In 2012, she was invited to attend mentor training with the Puente program at the University of California at Berkeley and served as the mentor coordinator for the first Puente cohort at Palo Alto College. She is the author of Catching Dreams, a collection of inspiring mentor stories. Additionally, she has published several book reviews and research articles. Currently, Diane is interested in mentor research. More recently, Diane Lerma represented Palo Alto College at Yale University's Writers' Workshop. For all her efforts, Diane received the NISOT Award for Teaching Excellence, and she is a recipient of the Yellow Rose of Texas Educators Award. Ms. Lerma earned her Master Teacher certification in May 2018 and has taught at Palo Alto College for 20 years. And now it is my great pleasure to welcome Ms. Diane Lerma.
Hi, Lydia. Thank you so much, and good afternoon to everyone. I am delighted to have this opportunity to share student success strategies that work for me. And I cannot begin without thanking so many people. In particular, I want to acknowledge that these strategies are a result of my Catch the Next training, and more recently, the Master Teacher Certification Program of the Alamo Colleges. I want to thank Dr. Chavez because she's always encouraging me. I want to also give a special thank you to my lead instructor of EDUC, who is Dr. Yolanda Reyna, and my wonderful team at Palo Alto. So I want to thank my CTN family and everyone that I get to work with. It's truly a privilege. And I'd like to begin on the first slide. As you can see, our focus today is going to be about validation theory, positive mindsets, and teaching with technology. So those will be our focal points for this afternoon. Now, I'd like to invite everybody to my classroom, and you are welcome to do so. But in lieu of that, today I have a video prepared for you, which incidentally, keep in mind, this was unrehearsed. It was recorded on the first take. And so I wanted to make sure to let you know that before you watch the video. And it's going to begin with me, what I affectionately refer to as validation theory in action. And you're going to see me conduct a student-teacher conference. And then after that, you're going to watch how I build positive mindsets, utilizing a mentor text and reflection papers. And then what I want you to observe is how I employ technology for a quiz review. Finally, at the end of the video, you are going to hear from my current CTN students. We had the student teacher conferences at the beginning of the semester, and I asked for volunteers to give their testimonial about what that experience was like for them. Okay, Lydia, will you please play the video for us?
Absolutely.
Hi, Priscilla. Thank you for coming in today. Well, I'm glad that you made it to the conference, and I look forward to visiting with you. So tell me, what do you hope to learn this semester?
Well, this semester I'm hoping to learn note-taking skills.
Okay, very good. That's very common, actually. A lot of students tell me that they want to improve their note-taking skills. How are your note-taking skills right now?
Right now they're all over the place. I just scattered. I really want to focus on organizing them if possible.
Okay, good. You know, one of the first strategies I'm going to teach you all is the Cornell method. It is so easy. It was invented by a professor at Cornell University. That's why it's called the Cornell method. And I think a lot of students prefer that method for note-taking because it really organizes all the key terms and the definitions. So I think you're going to like it.
Awesome. Looking forward.
Okay, now I also wanted to ask you about, is there anything you would like for me to know that would help me be a better professor for you?
Yes, I am a mother of 5 and a grandmother as well.
Oh my goodness, I could not have noticed that about you, that you're a mother of 5 children.
Yes.
That helps me a lot,
Yes.
knowing that about you. And you're a very young grandmother.
Yes. Thank you.
All right, very good. Well, I won't take up any more of your time. Let me give you a hug on your way out.
Thank you.
Okay, very good. I look forward to getting to know you better.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye, Priscilla.
Bye.
Which of the following statements about short-term goals is true? Very good. Short-term goals pave the way to achieving long-term goals. Excellent, class.
What I liked about the conference was that I was able to get out of the way of what I wanted to accomplish in college, and that I was being supported for it.
What I liked the student conference with Ms. Lerma was that it was an individual meeting, so I felt more comfortable with that, and she made me feel like I can talk to her whenever.
What I liked about the student conference is I got to know Ms. Lerma a little bit better than and I also get to tell her a little bit about me, and it was going to be hard for me, but it was actually a lot easier than I thought.
What I liked about the student conference was that Ms. Lerma made me feel welcome, and she approved of my shyness.
You can employ these techniques in your classroom as well. On the next slide, you're going to see a photo of me with Dr. Laura Rendon. She is like a scholar mentor to me, and I really attribute all the credit to her. I have known her for many years. We met at the Hispanic Association of Colleges and Universities. She was teaching at Arizona State University, and I was working at Haku, and that's how our paths have crossed. So I'd like for us to revisit her definition of validation theory. It says validation is an enabling, confirming, and supportive process initiated by in and out of class agents that fosters academic and personal development. Now, if you've not tried this, you might be asking, well, how is this helpful to me? How is this going to be useful in my classroom? Well, I employ validation theory because it helps me establish good communication with my students. I can develop an effective working relationship with them. You know what? At the end of the semester, I told my students, well, this is it. I congratulate you. You made it. You are done. It's time for me to say goodbye to you. The students told me, Mrs. Lerma, do not say goodbye. Don't tell us goodbye. Why don't you just tell us farewell, or that you'll see us later? I was taken aback by those comments, and I told them, okay, I will not say goodbye. I will say see you around campus. That's validation theory. That is the fruit of what validation theory is all about. In the video that you saw, I schedule those student conferences in my third week of the semester. They are held in my office. I say the third week. You might be asking, why the third week? Well, because the first 2 weeks are a little hectic, and I believe that everybody needs to settle into their routine. So I find the third week is magical. So that's what I recommend. Now, each student has 5 minutes to answer 2 questions. And trust me, a lot can be revealed in those 5 minutes. What do you hope to learn this semester is the first question. And is there anything you want me to know that would help me do a good job for you? And so that's really where I hear a lot of answers that vary, but a lot of students just tell me, you know what, Ms. Lerma, I'd like to know more about how I can improve my time management, or I'm a big procrastinator. That's pretty much the gist of what I hear. Now, for the second questions, those types of comments are really very helpful to an instructor. A lot of students will tell me, well, Ms. Lerma, I'm very shy. Students have told me I have anxiety issues. They tell me I work all night. I had a student last semester that says I take 3 buses to get to campus, and so on. I had a gentleman that said, Ms. Lerma, I leave my house at 6:30 just so I won't be late for our class. I told him that really says a lot about your character. And so that exchange is very valuable to an instructor. So all this is good for me to know in a private setting, which is impossible in the classroom. We can't have these kinds of conversations there. Now, I have to share an important side note with you. It's tempting, but resist bringing up any negative or inappropriate behavior to their attention during this conference time. Maybe you have a student that's been late for those past 2 weeks and you want to know, why are you late to class all the time? Just resist that. This is a time that they are nervous, they're apprehensive. I know because they tell me afterward, wow, I was really nervous about coming into your office. So they'll share those things with me, but this allows me the opportunity to mention a positive attribute and turning the negative behavior into a positive one. So let's say maybe you have a student that's a little bit too outgoing or interrupts or tends to talk more than they should. I might say something like, you know what? I already see leadership potential in you. Something like that to maybe turn the behavior around. Now, did you notice in the video that I addressed the student by her name? Henry David Thoreau further supports validation theory, and I have a quote to share with you. He said, "A name pronounced is recognition of the individual to whom it belongs. He who can pronounce my name aright, he can call me, and he is entitled to my love and service." So I really feel like that is something important to make sure the student is addressed by their name and I pronounce their name correctly. And I think it just shows respect. So I just wanted to make sure to share that with you. And again, just to close out the conference time, I always end on a positive note, like, I look forward to working with you. I'm glad you chose me to be your professor. And I tend to, if I can, maybe hug the female students, and then I always shake the male student's hand. Again, just out of respect. I want to be respectful to everybody. So that's always a very, I look forward to the student-teacher conferences. Now, let's go on to the next slide. So we have students that may have had a bad experience in high school, and for a myriad of reasons, of course. And so I read a book in the Master Teacher Certification Program, and it's by Sandra McGuire. Dr. Sandra McGuire says the name of her book is Teach Students How to Learn. And so she has a portion in her book that I have incorporated with my CTN training, because as we know, the foundation of CTN is for the students to have a writing intensive experience. So my students on a weekly basis have to submit reflection papers. So for example, the prompts vary. Like recently I used, tell me about a challenge you had to overcome, or tell me about a proud moment in your life. And then I like this one is very revealing. What would you tell your high school self? I have had students tell me, Miss Lerma, you've made me cry today. They have to share all their writing. It's all acknowledged. I never let them not berate, but I never let them demean. I think that's the best word, because I've had students demean their own writing, and I tell them, I would never do that. I am not going to give you permission to demean your own work. And so they know the policy from the first week of class that all work is shared in their small group. They are required to read their work and applaud each other. And I tell them, I quote Isabel Allende, I tell them, you have to write what must not be forgotten. And this sharing in small group, it's so empowering, and it brings them closer to each other. And like I said, it depends on the prompt. Sometimes they're so emotional about what they read that they know what to do. They have to ask another member of their small group to read it for them. Everything is honored in this exercise here. Now, you also saw them reading the 4 agreements, and they have to be able to share. They can use a strong line. And I use the 4 agreements book semester after semester. I can't let it go, because the students at the end, they tell me, Miss Lerma, thank you. Thank you for making us read this book. In fact, I was having a side conversation with a student, and I was telling him about an experience I had about someone that was not very nice to me. And he used the 4 agreements back on me. He said, Miss Lerma, what did we read in the 4 agreements? Don't take anything personally. And I was just so tickled about that. And I said, oh, I'm glad. I can't let this book go. So it's very easy to read. It's very affordable, and it has a lot of good advice. Now, let's go ahead and go to the next slide. And you saw me teaching with technology. Maybe you are thinking, I'm not good with technology. Oh my gosh, it's so easy to use this web tool. It's called Kahoot. And I'd like for you to think about using technology, because what I learned in the Master Teacher Program is that more evidence is showing it really can enhance the learning process. And in my experience, the technology develops the interaction between the students and myself. And I can tell you they love to compete with each other. And I I really enjoy it because it facilitates the participatory learning experience. So for those reasons, I hope you will consider trying it. But Kahoot in particular, it's a friendly web tool. You can set up an account in minutes. After I give them the lecture, then we review the content with a Kahoot quiz at the end of class. So if you're interested, you just need to go to kahoot.com. It's a free account, and it won't even take you 2 minutes to set up, and you can use your own graphics, choose their settings, whatever you want to do. It's that easy. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this concludes my portion of our webinar today. I have covered a lot of information. I wanted to be as brief as possible, talking about validation theory and writing as an empowerment tool. And of course, we saw teaching with technology is very effective. And even though I have to end our time together now, I hope that I have encouraged you to consider employing one of these strategies. And, you know, at the end of every class, I always leave them with a thought for the day. It's probably going to be one of my mantras or a quote that I thought, this is going to be perfect for them. I mean, I'll say something like, go out there and expect something great to happen today, or the best is yet to be. So the quote I have for you today is by, and if you're a Cowboy fan like me, you know who Roger Staubach was. He was the quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys. He was known for saying, there is no traffic on the extra mile. Colleagues, I want to thank you. You go the extra mile every day with your service and dedication to our students, and it's been such an honor to have this opportunity today. Thank you, and I'd like for you to expect something great to happen today. And I can turn on my camera. I would be happy to address questions from my audience.
Absolutely. And thank you, Diane, for going the extra mile for us and presenting on some of the successful strategies that you use in class. So we can turn it over to Q&A now. If anyone has any questions, just as a reminder, you can use the hand raise feature and I will unmute you. Or you can certainly type your question into the question pane and I will read that aloud for you. One question I had, Diane, was you were talking about students reading their work aloud and really focusing on the applauding each other and validating each other. And you and I were speaking the other day about how some of that came from your own experience returning to a graduate program in English and rhetoric. I was wondering if you could talk about that, about how your experience has sort of played into what you do with your students.
Yes, Lydia, thank you for asking that, because I learned that technique when I returned to school. I had the most wonderful and inspiring professors at UTSA, and I remember how I felt when my fellow classmates who were going for a PhD in college in English. Hold on just a second.
Mm-hmm.
I'm back. It was so validating, and it inspired me to keep writing, and it was just such a positive feeling. So I wanted to bring that to my classroom.
Absolutely, thank you. And I just thought that was such a good lesson too, to think about. You know, very often we think about sort of the teaching styles that we were exposed to, and we tend to maybe sometimes replicate those styles, but we don't always remember some of the anxieties that we felt in those really tough classes, and how, some of our best teachers worked to alleviate some of those. And so I appreciate that you're able to replicate that in your classes.
Hi, I wanted to say thank you, Diane, for this presentation and for always going the extra mile with our program. And the best example that I have is the book of mentor stories that you put together for the program. I heard you mention that you were doing some more mentor research, and I was wondering if that was going to be a second edition of the mentor stories book. The other question that I had pertained to the strategies that you use to get to know students. And I'm wondering how long you've been doing that. And for the classes that you did prior to that, do you notice the difference between the level of positivity in the classroom or the level of engagement from the students?
Okay, those are great questions. Thank you for asking. Let me broach the first part about the mentor research. I am not currently working on a second edition of Mentors. However, Dr. Victor Sines approached me to co-author an article with him regarding mentorship. So I told him, yes, I'd like to collaborate with you, Dr. Sines. And so I'm very excited about that opportunity.
Excellent. Yes, we'll be looking forward to that as well. Thank you so much. And so, it looks like, go ahead, Maria. Did you have another comment?
No, I was just going to say if she noticed the difference in the classroom climate, in the classes where she does these strategies versus the classes when she didn't use this strategy.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you for reminding me. Oh, I can tell there is a difference because I feel like I have developed a bond with them, and it starts the semester off on the right tone. You may be wondering why the third week. Well, because the first 2 weeks are hectic and they're learning their schedule, and we all need time. It seems like we need time to fall into our routine. And so I strive to memorize everyone's name. And so by the third week, it really will help my memory in having them in front of me face to face, and I can remember if they're in my Monday, Wednesday class, and that's something personal about them. And when I don't exercise, when I don't utilize that technique, there's like some distance, I want to say, if that's maybe a good word. It's just the student feels more distant, and I feel closer to a student after the student teacher conference. I recommend it. It's great. It takes a whole week to do it because there's so many students with 5 minutes each that it takes 2 class meetings, and it's worth it.
Right. No, I'm sure there could be an interesting study, a comparative study of students that have the benefit of that methodology versus those that don't, and then to see the completion rate. Would the students that go through this process more likely to remain in school and complete the course versus those classes that don't have the benefit of that strategy. Thank you for sharing. It's
okay,
wonderful.
You're welcome.
Yes, thank you so much. And I think that if there aren't any other questions for Diane right now, again, we want to say thank you, Diane, for sharing your expertise and your strategies with us. This is something that I would definitely like to do. I really like the idea of doing it in the third week as a way to really get to know your students better and to know kind of what challenges they're facing and things like that. I try to do one-on-one student conferences in my English classes, but it's usually later in the semester. So
I think what I'm going to take away from this is doing it early.
All right, well, thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Diane.
Thank you, Diane. Have a
Okay.
wonderful day.
Okay, bye-bye.